back to what I was saying before this though. So I have talked to a good amount of artists and stuff. And the cool thing that I have seen is that in the 21st century, mainly like 2015 on, when like social media started becoming like really prominent, you see like people doing things creatively or even organically original that they're really passionate about, and making an income or creating a business out of it rather than just getting a standard 9 to 5. So
Yeah.
by you saying like you can actually make a career out of it, I think do you think a big part of that comes from this social media expansion that we see in this 21st century?
I definitely feel like it's in some ways, if you it's clever enough to understand the whole craziness of the algorithm works. Oh, sorry, weird thing going. Hang on 2 seconds. I'll just get this. Like, my things are doing weird. Hang on. Sorry, there we go.
No, you're good.
Um, sorry, I'll answer again. To answer that, I feel like if you understand the whole social media concept of it, like the whole craziness of how algorithms work and otherwise, all the how it works to get yourself promoted, um, yeah, definitely, yeah, it gives, and well, it does definitely give people hope as well. It does give people of incentive to inspires a lot of people to want to do it. Like you said, because you see on social media, there's so many like artists, so many sculptors, and some ways it can be daunting because it's like, oh, how am I going to shine above? How am I going to shine from all of them? But at the same time, it's like you've got this opportunity to get into so many doors. Like you say, you can do it right. I don't feel like I've nailed it. I feel like most artists don't know if they nailed it yet, because I don't really know how the system really works. Really, like, well, you found me from it, so that's amazing. It does have this brilliant connect through everybody, doesn't it? Like through all corners of the world. So it is great in that aspect. If you can nail it, yeah, definitely. I think you can definitely. Well, for my girlfriend, for example, she's an illustrator, and she did a lot of work through Instagram and other social media, and she does really well with it. She gets a lot of business through it, and it's growing and growing a little bit more. And so I can see that snowballing effect a little bit. Like once she worked it all out, I can see it going on. But for me, wise, I want to try and grow it, but I'm not just relying focusing on that. I'm trying to go for my audience. I think target market is a bit older, so I'm trying to do more direct marketing of like going to like actual like proper shows. And this is a whole big plan wise for me. So it's kind of knowing what you think your market is good for. And it's just, but yeah. But to answer your question, yes. So I don't know if I'm tangenting on something
No,
else
you're
now.
good. No, you're
Um,
good. Yeah, you were just saying that your market's almost a little older, and so you're trying to do more direct. And I get that.
yeah,
I feel like it's always like for specific areas or specific genres. I always think it's definitely you got to find your niche. You got to find the people that will
yeah,
follow you. And sculpting, I guarantee, is like that because the cool thing that I've always known about like sculptures and stuff is like you can always be baffled by them. And this is
yeah,
true with
yeah.
anything that is artistic. It's just sculptures, like it magnifies. Like I mean, to an extent, like would you call a super magnificent building a sculpture?
Oh yeah, I think in some ways, yes, yeah. I used to get inspired by buildings like some architects, like there are some magnificent kinds, there are some magnificent buildings out there. So definitely, you could definitely get inspired by that. But to answer you guys a little bit about the sculpture factor, like their wow factor, like I actually did do after I came back from uni, I started to get into painting a lot, and it used to be like my little Saturday thing. And I could do it, and I got to the point where I was quite good. And I was trying to juggle all these hats because I'm like, oh, I like a bit of painting, I like a bit of sculpture, I like a bit of this, and I couldn't seem to decide where I was. And the one thing that stopped me, what made me go down the sculpture work, I had more success in my sculpture work than I did my painting and other work. I noticed, for me, getting back to what you saying, niching down, I like realized I could become more successful, get to the top of the food chain easier if I did my sculpture work. I had like say a bit more of a wow factor. It made me realize it's not as easy as it is. You know what I mean? It's not. I would say it's a little bit more difficult. You have to obviously have a bit, tools and a bit of the space to do it wise, but it still is that element of feel like I knew that I had something different in the sculpture element a little bit, and it has that little, like say, more wow factor, and
Mm-hmm.
it's like amazing. I like to turn people's what about my work wise is I like to change the perception of metal. A lot of people think of metal and think it's big, robust, and very, very, very strong, and just very kind of cold wise. I like to turn that perception into making very organic and very delicate, and I think to surprise a lot of people with some of the stuff I do. that actually they realize it's metal, and so that's the nice bit, that uniqueness of, if you get me, that's what I like to do.
Mhm.
So but a little quote, who is it, this is my silly quote, I like to think this anyway, is Picasso said, I know if don't want to say the big name Picasso, but he said sculpture is the art of, oh damn, I've got to ruin it now, is the art of intelligent art. It's basically about saying, like, it's not just an idea concept, it's idea concept, but you know, 3-dimensional. It's you know, I need to find I'll get the quote better really, but it was something along the lines of that.
So this is gonna sound ridiculous, but I think SpongeBob is awesome in a sense. You know what SpongeBob is? I'm sure you do. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And so I was like, do you know what SpongeBob is? Everyone knows what SpongeBob is. And one of the episodes of SpongeBob that I always like think about as intelligent is like the episode where they're doing the sculptures and SpongeBob's just like super good at it, and Squidward wants to be good at it, but he's not good, and SpongeBob's just natural at it. Do you think that sculpting is something that comes to you naturally, or do you think that like you develop the skill over time? So let me put that in a different way. Do you think that you were naturally inclined to want to be a sculptor and be good at it, or do you think that no, like you just like artistically sound, and so sculpting you just found it along the way?
No, that's interesting. That's a good question. I think I've always had a net sense of 3-dimensional form, really. Like even when I drawed, I used to always draw in 3-dimensional, and used to at the time I was quite known. Well, I don't want to say like a child prodigy, but you know, I got told a lot, like quite wild, a lot of people from my age. I used to draw very 3-dimensional, like as a young age. I used to baffle a lot of the teachers. I feel like I'm really getting really ego now. Like, oh, I was so very good at doing this.
No, yeah.
But it was just saying that I used to always just, it's fascinating to do the 3-dimensional. And I always thought, well, it just makes it come alive, doesn't it? I think I just love that 3-dimensional form. So I think I wasn't too surprised. And then when I used to then get into driving cars all the time, I used to always knew how to do it 3-dimensional on paper or on things. So I think I always feel like I've had in a sense, to be able to do it. And even when doing some sculpture work, I don't see other sculptors, and I'm not poo wise, but sometimes when they're doing something, they create a lot of frames for it to make a figure or some kind of animal or something, and they make a very basic frame for it. And I always feel like I don't need to do that. Like, I'm always surprised a lot of times they do. Like, obviously it doesn't help it. Maybe I'm doing it, making life harder for myself, but I'm always like, oh no, I can do it in a few lines. I don't need to do loads of things to help me. And I've always done it. I like to challenge myself to, so I always feel like I've got a good perception. I don't know. I think so. I do feel there is some in a sense skill. Obviously, you do hone it. I do feel like I have honed it over time. Got more comfortable in your saying. I do think you've pushed the boundaries and your skill set. But I do think there is that tiny bit of sense. Something.